Okay, cool. Righty. So what I'm going to do is share my desktop. Share that. Let me switch over to CAD. So what happens with CAD in terms of dimensions when you've got something, know how big it is, and you try and dimension it.
Yeah. Did you say this is going to record?
Yeah, it's
so I can watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You get that situation where it's super small.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Exactly that. So let me just get my mouse quick. And so the reason being is, again, it comes down to the fact that CAD was originally a mechanical product and it draws everything really small because most drawings on it are done really small. And when we deal with architectural size stuff, then it's a problem, obviously.
Yeah.
So what we do is we have to tell it to basically scale up. Like I did with the lines the other day when they weren't dashing and dotting properly. We're basically changing the scale. We've got to set it up a bit more manually. And this is also incorrect. We don't use arrows. We use the architectural tick. So what I was suggesting or saying in class the other day, which you kind of vaguely remembered, was we've got to format certain things. So we go up to format. We format text style. And I'm going to set up with you now quickly a basic one. There's standard is either annotative and something else. We're going to create a new one by clicking on the plus. And we're going to call it, say, 1:100. And that's the one that we're going to deal with. We're going to leave it as Arial, which is fine. Regular, which is fine, but we want to make the text height. This is what you vaguely remembered. Normally we're setting up at about 200. Now council wants things at about 2.5, so we normally make it 250. But 200 makes it easier because later on what we can do is for 1:50, this text height halves to 100. And then as we halve the scale, we're halving the height essentially, so that we've got the text, your body text in this case, always printing out at about 2 mils in height or whatever scale you work on. Obviously for heading text, you could have this changed to 400 to make it twice as big. But that's the only thing we're really changing in. Nothing else too fancy. None of these other items change. We're just doing a 200 text height, 1:100. We're saying apply. Okay, close. So now when I come and type in some text, there we go. This text is currently, if I look at my properties on the right here, it is style 1:100. The text height should be pulled from there. It's 200. And we can see the difference that we're having between our dimension, which is there, and my text height at 1:200. If I go here and I check what my dimensions are, my text height is only 2.5. It's literally 100 times smaller. Okay.
Yes.
What we need to do is, basically what we can do is we need to format dimensions like we've just done with text. And we go to the same menu, we go format, and we go to dimension style. So we've done text style. We're now going to dimension style. After this, we can go do multi-leader style. Multi-leader are those pointy arrow things that you have like over here where you're trying to call out specific annotations. We can change that too. But we do dimension style next. This opens with a lot more things to change, and we'll go through it quite quickly, and we can look at this video again later. So there's one already loaded, and there's standard. I think ISO 25 was probably what we were looking at before. Yeah, there it is over there, ISO 25. So it's 1:25 scale, probably, roughly. We again want to go plus. We're going to say 1:100 style. You can start with this, or we can just start with standard. Doesn't really matter. We're going to be changing everything ourselves. Make sure annotative is off. Annotative tries to scale things in real time, which is just confusing. You're going to use it for all dimensions, which is fine. Go continue. And it now opens up another window above that one, which is new dimension style 1:100. And there are all these tabs that we can change, right? We normally work from left to right, but the first one I do is always go to text. And I choose this text style that we've just created. So I make it 1:100. And now you check how this thing, it just goes crazy. This is a preview window. Don't freak out too much about this doing weird stuff, because we're changing things one at a time, and the text now is way bigger than dimension, and everything just goes out of whack. So text style 1:100, it'll now be, this grays out. You can't change the height because it's referencing that. And this we just do by layer, text color, full color, none. Full, if you put a color on it, it wants to put a block around things. So we say none. That, okay? Vertical, horizontal, view direction, we can kind of keep this like this for now. I'll come and change some of these things later, and we'll change some of these things later once we get the scaling working a bit better. So I'm just changing the appearance right now of text. Once I've done that, I'll flip over to the first tab, which is lines. And these are fairly simple to change as well. Color is always going to be by layer because we're probably going to have a dimension layer. We'll keep it all by layer. Line type by layer. Line weight by layer. We want everything to be according to our layers that we set up for dimension. Baseline spacing, these are normally sort of put at 100 or so. A lot of the spacings and offsets are kind of mimic the text in terms of spacing and height. It's normally the spacing. What happens is in this little corner here, you click to create a dimension there and there, and then you place your dimension. This baseline spacing just gives you a little bit of a line off the drawing, so it's not touching your drawing. You want a little bit of space between the actual line and the extension line. That's this dimension. Suppressing, if I turn these off and on, you can see it turns off certain things. Sorry, are you back?
Yeah, back.
We'll figure out reconnecting this app. By layer for color, line type, all of these by layer. By layer.
Oh, I haven't got it on the screen though.
Let me check the share. Okay.
Don't have it just yet. Here we go.
Nice.
Starting. Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, so all these are by layer, line weights, by layer. Suppressing, again, if we click these off and on, you can see what they're changing, so you know what they are. Those are the extension lines. The next item, extend beyond extension lines. Again, I put this at 100. 100. That just gives me a little fly past there, which is cool. Offset from origin, 100. That also, that's the one I was talking about earlier. That gives me this little fly past here. Baseline spacing, I think, is something about this. I can't remember. I can't remember all these things all the time. So that's fine. It's kind of looking a little bit better now. Okay.
Yeah.
Symbols and arrows. What we're going to be doing here is architectural tick, and they normally pair up. They match each other. And a leader, we'll choose as closed filled is fine. Arrow size, we could probably also go about 100 here. And we get a decent sort of arrow size, and that's starting to look kind of correct now, although we're not too worried about everything. Break size 100, center marks, yes, we just do a mark. Size, don't worry about that too much. Radius jog, don't worry about that too much. This is just changing where the symbol goes in front or behind for arc symbol length. Radius 893. We don't worry about too much of these. These you can come fiddle with later once you've got the basics done to get it to look exactly like you want. You don't really fiddle that too much. Text we've done. What I want to do here quickly is just skip one to primary units. Change the precision 0. It might be there already if you've edited the units on your template, but I haven't done anything except this. So I had to set mine to 0, and you can see now the numbers are whole numbers, which is cool. They're now fitting us, like I mentioned. Decimal separator 0, rounding off 0. We don't need any rounding off. Scale factor, these are all fine. 0 suppression. Decimal degrees also 0. All that's kind of cool. If I come back to text, I've got the style. I can change this sort of thing where I want my dimension to be. I like centered. I think Michael likes it above, or Carolando likes it above. I like it centered. I like horizontal centered. Offset from dim line.
Yeah, Michael has it above.
Yeah. I also change this. For me, because I've got it centered, I want my lines to break before my number and not go through my number. So I have this number about 100. Yeah. And also you can align with dimension line, then it fits all of them. Whereas horizontal will always try and make the text. So that's kind of how I've set up. Boom, 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 boom. And it looks like a correct sort of thing. For fit, this is just a case of when your dimension number gets too big to fit in here, what do you want to have stay there? So normally what I'll do is I'll always keeping it just doesn't work. So what I do is if there's not enough room, the first place outside extension lines is either text or arrows, whatever fits best. I normally go with that one. And if it doesn't, then I'll go over dimension line with the leader, which means it'll pop this number out and put a little squiggly line in and tell you where it applies. If it doesn't fit. And then annotated we keep off, primary units we've done. Alternate units we don't worry about. And tolerances we don't really worry about either. So we've pretty much got everything set up here, and we go, okay. What we want to do is make sure that this is set as current. 1:100, we can close. Now, obviously, it doesn't change this dimension. But if I go and do a new dimension, it should now be, there we go, according to my new dimension style, and there it is, 1030.
Okay, awesome. So it's going to look quite big on the.
Well, this drawing is only 1 meter by 1 meter, roughly 103. Yeah. That's quite a small little block I drew. And if I go and if I click on this one and change it down in properties and change its style to 100, it'll update it there as well. It hasn't updated everything though. So the text style here is a bit limited. It's only changed certain things. If I go and I do what they call match properties, which is this button over here, where's match properties? Looks like a paintbrush. I normally just use, here's it here, I've added it. I normally use the shortcut MA for match properties. Select what I want to match from and select what I want to match to, and that'll update it like that, which is the easier way to do it.
Cool.
That's now updated to that one. So what we've got then is we've got format, text style first, then dimension style. We can come and do multi-leader style afterwards. We can change and create our own one, gain plus, create it 1 is to 100 as a start. And then we can go and fiddle around with this similar to what we've done so far. And I'll let you figure that out. And then we can do multi-leaders in the same sort of vein. This one's probably going to be too small. That's really tiny, so we'd have to update that. But we kind of got the basics. You can go fiddle that. Now, technically, we would do this for all of our major scales. 1 is to 100, 200.
Yeah, so you can go through and you can set up your 1 to 25, 1 to 50, 1 to 100, and then you just choose according to.
It's all relative to this. So if your scale is 4 times different, your text is 4 times smaller, whatever the case, depending which way you're going.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's essentially it. And then in terms of layout, I know you wanted some of this. This is almost simpler. It's just basically having a title block, and then you're changing your zoom down on the bottom here. We've got your zoom scales. And if you don't have the standard scales here, you can always just go edit scale list, and then you can go and create them. They're quite simple to create. You basically tell it.
I did have a little snoop around last night on YouTube, and I did sort of find a video, and then I had a look at that, and I have all those things sort of up on mine. So
cool.
All right. Well, I was just at like such a standstill with that text. I couldn't.
Yeah, it's frustrating
because I
mean, technically, you can with text at least you can go here and you can change the height here. You can manually manipulate your height. But you're going to have to do that for one, and then it's going to change every time. And also it's useful because you use it for your dimensions, and then everything is groovy and done. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share now.
Cool.
Go back to here, and then we should be good.